So I believe we have Brian and Chuck with us now.
Chuck,
Thank you so much for joining us
good to be
today.
here.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. And of course, we're
All
excited to
right.
hear what it's like being an engineer and what you get to do with Corner View Farm.
All right. My name's Chuck Hutchins, and I'm a fairly new employee here. Just recently coming on board with Cornerview Farms and Galaxy and getting involved with that. So I'm going to bring you over here to one of the areas where we have a lot of supplies and things like that. And it seems fairly basic where we've just got an equipment room, right? But there's a whole lot of engineering that goes into this equipment room. Everything from you've got a whole line of chemicals here down below, and there's chemical engineers that get involved, obviously, with designing what types of chemicals to use, which are the best at cleaning. We got a lot of unique challenges in the dairy industry on cleaning milk lines. So, our milk delivery is over here, and the production is way over there. You've got all kinds of lines between those two places that have to get cleaned on a regular basis to keep them sanitized, etc. But even before you can figure out what the right kind of chemical is, we need somebody to do the testing of the water and see what hardness and what minerals and things like that might be in the water will really greatly affect what chemicals are going to be effective in that water, because you're using that water as a base, obviously, on your wash up. So the other thing you'll see in here, which isn't typical on a lot of places, but this is a highly automated dairy. There's little probes. Each one of these, we can look on a computer, you can pull it up on your phone, you can look on the PC, wherever, and we know when those chemicals are getting low, what level. So they're level probes. So we know if those need to be refilled, etc. So there's a lot of, you just look in this whole room and you've got everything from air compressors to cooling systems to water systems to chemicals, valving systems. So there's, you could be you could be all kinds of different careers and be involved just in this room alone, right? From everything
Yeah.
from water, chemicals, plumbing, all those systems. You could be a plumber. A lot of plumbing gets involved in dairy farms. It doesn't necessarily mean you're even working for an ag company, but you might be a local plumber that specializes in ag, so there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved.
Yeah,
So it's pretty interesting.
that's
And
awesome.
even over this tank over here is one of those. It's not a new thing anymore, but it used to be that, say, the water coming out of the plate cooler and so forth would just go down the drain. Well, now we recirculate all that. Most water in a dairy, by the time it comes out of the pump until it becomes, goes, say, into the manure lagoon or gets wasted, becomes waste, is used about 3 times. It'll go
Wow.
through. So first off, we take it to cool the milk. It'll bring the temperature down on the milk so that we have to use less energy to actually cool the milk. And the neat thing about that is then that water can be reused for washing, can be used for washing down the alleyways, doing anything you need to do. Or we also take that water and it goes directly over here to these cows. When they come out of the robot, those are water stations for them to drink milk because they often are thirsty afterwards. And the neat thing about using the water, and now that we've reused that water to cool the milk, it actually brings the temperature of the water up, so it's not quite as cold as it would be directly out of the well, and they actually drink more of it. They like it. It's not such a cold shock, and they'll actually drink
Right.
more water, which in turn helps them make more milk. So
Sure.
it's a it's a win-win-win in
It
one of those
sounds,
situations.
yeah, it sounds like an incredible cycle that works really well and keeps the cows happy. They're clearly very happy and content
Yeah,
hanging out there. So that's
these are very
awesome.
chill cows. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Now that's a lot going on in that room, and I mean, it just looks
yeah,
like a lot. So, is
yeah.
there something that that maybe is the most difficult to work with, or is there something? Does Farmer Brad handle a lot of that, or do you guys come in and help maintain and repair things often? Like, how does that work for a farmer, and then you as the
So
engineer coming in to help?
there's a number of people involved here. Everybody from Farmer Brad coming out to doing it, to chemical specialists. Now, Farmer Brad is also an engineer, right? So he's done
Sure.
a lot of this himself, which would be not that typical on most dairy farms. most dairy farms would have the dealership that they work with would come out and test the water. They'd have a technician that tests the water and does all that. And then they would figure out, say, what chemicals to use. And they're going to have to calculate everything from a system like this, how much water, how much chemical to use. And that's going to be based on the hardness of the water, what you're dealing with there. And that can be all over the country. That can be different things that you deal with in the water. You have to compensate for with the chemicals side of things. So there's a lot that goes. That's one of those things that gets worked on a lot is because cleanliness is the utmost, the highest of what we're always looking for in the dairy, because everything is all about quality and producing quality milk. So we're often adjusting and we're monitoring that just all the time.
Yeah.
Or like every single load of milk that goes off the farm is tested for bacteria counts, for somatic cell counts. So that's the health of the cows. All those things are being looked at, daily, literally. So if something changes there, it's going to get an immediate. Somebody's got to respond and figure out what's going on. So
Sure.
that's something that happens all the time.
Yeah. Chuck, what inspired you to want to be an engineer? Like, this sounds like you've got a pretty cool job, and it doesn't sound like your day is the same every day, especially when you're going to come out and do stuff like this. So, what inspired you to want to be an engineer?
Just I don't know if I was inspired to be an engineer as much as I was inspired to just being in the dairy industry, growing up with the dairy industry. And, I grew up on a farm myself and then always wanted to be involved with it. I had relatives that were also on the business side of it, and doing both, kind of like Brad is, like where they were, might have been a dairy farmer, but also doing sales of, back in the day, silos and things like that. So that was kind of the direction I always felt excited to go to. And when I went to school, then getting involved in engineering, I always was interested in how everything worked. And so I went into engineering and then ag engineering. When I went through University of Wisconsin-Madison, because I'm from Wisconsin. So that's where I went through school. And
Yeah.
they have a really good program there for ag. And so that's the direction I took it. So
Awesome. I love that. Is there a piece of
yeah.
advice? And I know we want to make sure we hear from Brian today too. So I was just
Yep.
curious if there's a piece of advice for any of our high schoolers that are listening today. Maybe they're thinking about engineering or anything like that. Is there something that you felt was really important that you did that helped you get on your career path, or an experience that you had that was really beneficial?
Well, I think I was really lucky in that I just was around people that were involved in it. And like I said, involved in all different sides of ag and the business side. So that it kind of opened my eyes to that. I was really lucky that there's a couple of young folks working here that are, still in high school and are working here because literally they came out here to the farm and said, I want to be involved in ag and I want to probably go to school in it, but I don't know exactly what, but I want to be involved. And they came out and talked to Suzanne, talked to Brad, and now they're working here. They're feeding calves. They're involved. They get to see all the engineering and the really amazing technological, technological advantages of using all that technology here on the farm, and they're really at the cutting edge of it. So that's something they'll be able to take and onto school, onto careers in the future, etc. So I'd say just dive in. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of just going to talk to somebody. I mean, it's amazing as a young kid. I don't think they realize how excited adults are to see a kid that's just willing to come out and do what a couple of the young folks here have done. Just come out to the farm and say, hey, I'd like to be involved. And how can I get involved? And can you make a place for me? And that inspires people, right? We just want people that want to be involved. So
Yeah,
just dive in. Don't be afraid at all, especially
awesome.
to talk to an adult. That's a a skill that's being lost, I think, a lot on the next generations. If you can just go out there and you don't have to feel comfortable with it, you just have to do it, and you'll get better at it over time. Just talk to people. Communication is key.
Yeah, agreed. Chuck, if we got to chat chat with you and get to be you're the adult we get to talk to, I feel like it'd be a very easy accomplishment. You're very easy to talk to, and I really appreciate
Well,
you
thank you.
sharing your experience as an engineer and new to the team here at
Yeah.
the Beal Farm. But I would love to get a chance to chat with Brian quick
Yep.
before
All
we
right.
wrap
I'm
up
gonna
our
pass the
engineer
headset
station.
over to him so he can get going.
That works. Brian, I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are and your role with the farm, and if there's anything else you wanted to add about like were you part of it from the beginning with the farm when they built all this, or any background or history you want to share? We'd love to hear.
All right. My name is Brian Carlson. Um, Account manager here at Amos Galaxy. So I've been full time for, I guess, 3-4 years.
Okay.
And I've known about the operation since its infancy when it was first started. I was working at a dealership at that point, a milk equipment dealer. And we immediately came on board to be selling the equipment that was at this farm with the robots and other, modern efficient equipment. So I'm very familiar with the operation. I've known Brad Beal for a dozen, 12 years. I left the dealership a few years ago and became full time. I work remotely, so I'm not here at the office farm on a daily basis, but with today's technology, we can virtual meet and so on and so forth.
That's cool.
Grew up on a dairy farm, from the time I was born. So very familiar with all the aspects of dairy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you have a dairy background. What would you say to someone who maybe isn't coming from a dairy farm if they're interested in looking at an engineering job like you? What's something that you would recommend they do to be able to pursue a career like yours?
So the biggest thing is to get your feet wet. And I mean, and Brad does interns here quite often through the summer. So and a lot of farms will do that with high school kids, to be able to come in and just work. You get paid, obviously, but you learn the basics starting out. And that would be a great asset if you're not a farm boy, girl growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in finding a farm like this farm that has the technology that you can, work around it and get to experience it a little bit and then
Right.
continue on into the education for it. Brian, what's something that you would feel that you need to have a really good interest in or be really good at to be an engineer? Like maybe like a topic like science or math, or, is there something that as a high schooler is listening right now, they're like, I really hate this or I really love this. What's something that
Yeah.
you think you need to have a passion for to be an engineer?
Well, definitely the sciences, science, biology, chemistry, math, those things are really important. You'd be surprised how often you use them, you know.
So those formulas you learn in science class and math, they're actually useful if you want to be an engineer, right? Maybe we're thinking, I know some
absolutely.
people are like, do I need to learn this? And you're saying, yes, you do need to learn this and it's important.
Yes. Pay attention in class. Algebra, is really, I still use it today. And the famous Pythagorean theorem, that
Right.
kids don't think it's any value. It is. It really is.
What's something on the farm that you do like that maybe you do with this farm? Like, can you give an example of a calculation you have to do regularly to help check anything? Or, is there something that you can maybe just give us an example of on the farm that you have to do?
Yeah, actually there is. We're right over here next to me is our high moisture corn feeder. And if the way the augers are come up and go over to calculate the length of those augers needed, speaking back to math again, that uses the Pythagorean theorem. I mean, you can measure the straight distance from the hopper over to here, but in order to figure out the hypotenuse, you need to have that knowledge.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's just a real basic example.
Yeah, no, I love that. I absolutely love that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, maybe about the robotic system at this farm, the engineering of it, your career, anything like that?
Well, there's so many behind the things that have to happen here. There's, chemical engineers, CAD drawers, computer animated design. Every everything that's in this barn was drawn on paper before it was put into existence.
That's cool.
From the milk lines, the stainless steel milk lines, the bedding robot that goes down through and beds the cows automatic, the high moisture corn feeder, it was all started on scratch pad and pencil, and then went next to a computer animated design, and then sent to production facilities. You know, it just really so much that we all take for granted on a daily
Sure.
basis.
Yeah, a lot of people have a part in making what's happening right now happen to make these cows comfortable, right? And give them a really
Right.
awesome experience on this farm. A lot of people
Yep.
are involved, and a lot of different careers. So that is awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate your time today, and make sure that we let Chuck know that we really appreciate him today as well, coming out to the farm and talking a little bit about engineering and how it plays a really important role in the dairy industry, specifically on this farm, right? A little bit more on this farm than I would say
For
most
sure.
farms, but
For sure.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was good chatting with you guys.
Thanks.